Okay, this is part 2 of our Copic Monkey tutorial of coloring black and white. I've already done her face. I'm going to go ahead and leave her hands here until after I've done her basket. I probably should have done the basket first, but I didn't, so oh well. What we're going to do now is I'm taking a really dark color because I want that basket to stand out against her dress. So I'm just going to kind of shade the bottoms here, part of her handle. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm really hoping you can see what I'm doing. Go along there, just the underside of the handle. And you can even go ahead and go out through her twigs here that are sticking out the side. And also get this twig that's over here a little bit. Okay, that was with W7. So now I'm going back with W5. Again, you could use W6, but I'm trying to stick with just the odd colors because I know a lot of people buy every other color in their grays. And I'm just going to kind of blend it on out. Again, focus down there. When I say focus, I just mean do lots of little circles over that hard edge line, and that will help it to blend out, so that way you don't have that strong line of other color. Go out through the rest of her twigs. Sorry, I'm trying real hard not to let my hand cover up the image. So there's that. Okay. So now that we've done that, I'm going to go to the leaves in her that she's got there. I'll kind of zoom in again. I don't know how. That's really blurry, so we'll just zoom back out a little bit. What I'm going to do for her leaves, I'm going to go ahead with a darker color. So we'll stick with W5 for now. And I'm just going to make a little dot there, right? You can kind of follow that line if you want. If you have the image, of course, you'll see that little line. I'm pretty sure you're not going to see it in this video. But I'm just going to kind of make a dot there in the center of, or the end point of her leaf there. And that's going to help. You're going to pull that color, the rest of that color out when you're blending. So now I'm going to W3. And when I go over that whole thing, and it will take some of that dotted color there, and it will help to shade the entire petal. You don't have to do anything real fancy or try to outline that leaf, because if you did that, you would end up with all one dark color. So kind of do that. And there will be a picture step-by-step on my blog, which might be a little bit easier to follow some of these little lighter points. And I'm going to go ahead with W1 and just color in the rest of that, because you don't want it white there. It'll just stand out a little bit too much. So we're going to go ahead with W1 all over those petals. And if you do choose to use a color in there on the petals, using that W1 will help that color not stand out so much. If you were to just use a bright pink, it would have, all you'd see your petals, it would take too much focus. So putting that gray there kind of helps to mute it a little bit. Okay, so now that we've colored the darker parts around it, we can go ahead and go to her arms. So same thing as I did with her face. I'm going to go all over it with my first color, which is W1. Just a quick layer of color. And then I'm going to take W3 and do my shadows down around here, around the end of her hand, underside of her hand and arm over here, down by the basket. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with W0. And again, using W0 instead of W1 that you did with your first color just helps that color to not get too dark while you're blending. And you'll do the same thing to her legs. W1 is your main color. W3. Whoops, wrong side. And don't forget to shade underneath her kneecaps. Okay. And then all over the whole thing with W0 to blend it all in. Okay, and for her shirt, I'm going to keep it white, so I'm going to go ahead and just use this W0 again just to go along all the outer edges. And if that's still a little bit too much of a line for you, you can take your colorless blender and then just kind of go over the whole center just to kind of erase the line, but you'll still have that little extra shadow there. Same thing to her socks, but I'm going to go to the socks last because they're lighter than the shoes. For the shoes, I'm using W7 again, just kind of like same thing as the basket. And if you look real carefully, you'll see some dots there in her shoe. That's because she's kind of got those bulky Mary Jane shoes. So go ahead and color that on there with your marker. I'm hoping my shoulder is not completely covering the camera. So that's what I've done for her. Oh, you can't see any of that. I am so sorry. That's what I've done for her shoes. And then I'm going back in with W5 and just going over the whole thing. And then with her socks again, I am so sorry, that is my computer being loud. With her socks again, I'm just going to use W0 because I want them to look like they're white. And just going along your edges. And if you want to go back in with your colorless blender to make sure that you don't have any lines, super fast and simple. Okay? Now, keeping it like this, of course, I haven't done her bows in her hair yet. That's fine. I'm not going to worry about that right now because I'm still at 7 minutes and I don't know that I'll have time. But the last thing that you can do, I didn't bring my pink over here. Go ahead with any, whatever you want your petal color to be, and then you can just kind of go in and color in those petals with your pink, and that will really make them pop out against all that black and white. The other thing that would look really pretty is to use something like Flower Soft, so that way those flowers could be colored and they're going to really, literally pop off the page because they're going to be 3D. And these flowers are small, so what I just recommend is just kind of dotting in over there. Remember, as soon as the tip of your marker touches the paper, that ink is going to start to flow out of it. So you can just have a little light hand and just kind of dab on in there with your colors. Same thing out here to all these little bad boys, which you probably can't see where I'm at right now because I'm zoomed in. But just kind of dot them in there, and then that will really make it stand out. And you could even, you could color in a little bit of pink over her cheeks or whatever if you wanted to. But overall, that is how you get ta-da! And that's our lesson. And I will have a step-by-step picture video on the blog as well. That might be a little bit easier to follow once you've listened to my babble. Okay, thanks!